The United Auto Workers have started paying strike benefits to General Motors workers who walked off the job 2 weeks ago. They're paying out $14 million a week, individual checks of $30 to $40, and they'll keep it up until the $120 million strike fund is exhausted or the walkout ends. $40 a week isn't much, and most people who work for or depend on GM are beginning to feel the pinch.
General Motors has been on strike for more than 2 weeks now, and in Flint, Michigan, a GM strike takes $8 million a week out of the economy. Flint is hometown for General Motors. The company and the city grew up together and prospered together. And what's good for General Motors is good for Flint. When General Motors is on strike, that's bad for Flint. The United Auto Workers Union has 50,000 striking members in Flint. Some supporting industries have laid men off because of the strike. In a company town like Flint, people sense a strike well before the deadline.
Generally, just prior to contract time, about 6 months, we start experiencing a buildup in our passbook savings in anticipation of, if there is a strike, they'll have some funds set aside.
How long would you expect as a banker that a strike of this broad nature could continue without doing serious damage to the economy of Flint?
I think if the strike lasts beyond 30 days with the $8 million weekly payroll loss, it'll very seriously affect the economy of Flint and our merchants for the balance of the year.
Larry and Polly Renshaw have 9 children. They began planning for the strike last winter. He worked at the Chevrolet parts plant until the strike began, and she is still working at one of Flint's top restaurants. They believe they can hold out if the strike doesn't last too long.
I thought maybe if I was going to start planning for it, it should be about 9 months in advance. So I was lucky enough to have my wife working, and I started buying a half a beef at first. Then I started getting a few canned stuff each week as I had additional money over and above our living expense. I think I should be able to make it 8 weeks anyways. Then I'll have to start restocking some of the stuff we've used. Because with 9 children, it don't take long to use it up.
Does it frustrate you to sit here in the house?
No, it doesn't frustrate me, but I'm awfully nervous of just thinking about what might happen within the next 4 or 5 weeks.
It doesn't bother him, but it does me, because he's always straightening stuff, and he's not used to being in the house constantly, and if there's 9 kids, you're going to have a little bit of clutter laying around every occasionally, but not here you don't, because he goes right behind every one of them, and everything that they lay down, he picks up and puts it away. And, it's his nerves because he can't sit down and watch TV and, worrying about, well, what if it lasts us 3 months?
General Motors employees have been on strike now for 46 days. Today, the company and the Automobile Workers Union said hereafter there would be a news blackout on their negotiations. No news, no announcements, no propaganda. And that seemed to mean they were now beginning serious bargaining. The union is demanding what it calls a substantial wage increase, unlimited protection against inflation, retirement on $500 a month after 30 years, regardless of age. It is said they are still far apart.
The news blackout which was imposed today is the traditional sign that serious talks are expected. And now, after several weeks of inaction, both sides are meeting behind these closed doors to delve into the national issues which have slowed down the bargaining. This is not a guarantee of an early settlement. In its 1967 UAW walkout against Ford, an agreement was not reached for 12 days after the blackout. Prior to resumption of the talks, federal mediator Jake Curtis Counts met with both sides and expressed his dissatisfaction with negotiations thus far. He told the negotiators if there is a lack of communications or a standstill on a specific issue, the Federal Mediation Service will actively enter into the bargaining. Counts told reporters he is interested in getting the national issues into perspective and hopefully into agreement by the end of this weekend's discussions. Stephen Schiff, NBC News, Detroit.
When the strike against General Motors began last month, many auto workers were ready for it. For months, they'd been saving their money, storing up food, preparing for a long strike. That's what the Renshaws did, but now they're beginning to hurt.
The Renshaws have 9 children.
Most are in school. They started out with $700 in the bank and 40 savings bonds. Now they have only 11 savings bonds left. But if it weren't for a new and controversial state policy giving strikers welfare in the form of aid to dependent children and food stamps, the Renshaws would really be in trouble.
But like I say, with this new setup with ADC and the food stamp program, it's going to be a lifesaver to the biggest part of the people, because I've talked to a lot of them and they told me just how much it's help them.
Well, Mrs. Romney is against it and running for Senate. And they're, reading the newspaper where there's quite a few of the politicians that don't think it's right. But I don't know how else these 60,000 people are going to live and feed their families. And I guess that's what America's all about, if it don't keep up its own. This is why we're in America. It's so that you can live and be independent, and something like this comes up that you don't know what to do, well, you can get through it. But I'm just working more hours. Of course, if this strike lasts much longer, it's going to affect the country squire where I work, and things are going to get slower there.
Do you think you'll ever catch up? Do you think whatever increase in pay that you get from this strike will ever get back on?
Never. No one ever gained anything in the strike.
Other families are in even worse shape. The Overmans lived from paycheck to paycheck. They had no savings, 5 children, and Mrs. Overman does not work.
Well, we haven't been able to pay the bills since the last month was here. As long as the collectors stay off of us, we'll live on food stamps. That's about it. If we start back and we support behind, I don't know how we'll ever catch up again. I'll refinance everything again.
Do you think you will ever catch up?
No, we just have to start over again.